Okay, we're continuing to talk about the Barr report. For a document that would totally clear the president, according to Donald Trump, Republicans are really working hard and going out of their way to prevent the Mueller report from being released. And for the second time this week, this is not me repeating the story from Monday, Tuesday. It's happened again. Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has blocked a resolution which would eventually get the Mueller report released. Now, I want to remind you, the House of Representatives passed this resolution 420 to 0. Okay, that means unanimous with some people abstaining, Democrats and Republicans 420 to 0. Mitch McConnell blocked it earlier this week. Dianne Feinstein, senator from California, Democrat, tried to get unanimous consent for the Senate to pass this. And for the second time, Mitch McConnell blocks it. Feinstein said, listen, anybody with a brain understands that William Barr's 4-page summary of a summary doesn't tell us a damn thing. We need the full report. But McConnell just says no. He says William Barr is going to tell us if and when and which version of the report is going to be released. And of course, which version, increasingly a question after Lindsey Graham said that a version is going to be provided to the House of Representatives. And it's an important sort of procedural thing to understand is that Dianne Feinstein tried to pass this by what's called unanimous consent. Okay, any senator can ask for unanimous consent to pass a resolution. Every senator has to sign off on it, but any one senator who wants to block it can block it. And that's what happened here with Mitch McConnell. So that's what's happening with our elected officials, at least in the Senate. Meanwhile, a new poll shows that 84% of Americans want the Mueller report made public, never mind being provided to the House and the Senate in an unredacted form. If you look among party lines, even 75% of Republicans want the Mueller report made public. This is according to a new Quinnipiac poll that was released this week. I've mentioned this before, okay? We don't have what's called a full democracy in the United States at this point in time. We have what's called a flawed democracy. These are not my terms. These are established terms that exist for describing the fullness of democracy in different nation states around the world. This is not like that silly democracy versus republic thing that some people on the right like to talk about. These are actual designations. A Princeton study has looked in detail at whether the United States is a full democracy or falls short of it. And what this means in practice is that in the United States, the level of public support for something, for a bill, for example, doesn't correlate significantly with the likelihood of it being made the law or being passed if it's not a matter of law. If you are very rich in the United States, or if you are a powerful and large corporation, what you want to see happen based on our legislative elected officials, that is much more likely to become reality than if you are just an average person. So an example would be after Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook shooting in Connecticut a few years ago, 85 to 90% of Americans wanted universal background checks with no exceptions, period. Couldn't make it happen. The fact that it was almost unanimous in terms of a desire from the public was not carried out by our elected officials. And in this case, 84% of Americans want the Robert Mueller report released in full. Mitch McConnell and William Barr are working very, very hard to prevent it. When we get it, Donald Trump may ultimately take pleasure in the fact that something short of the full report is what we are going to get. So when you look at how the United States is ranked in terms of the democracy index, we are not a full democracy. We are ranked as a flawed democracy. Flawed democracies are countries where the elections are basically fair and free, and there are basic civil liberties that are sort of honored in basically all circumstances. But there are sort of faults to the democracy. There are faults in terms of the development of the political culture, certainly an issue here in the United States. The level of participation in politics is a problem in flawed democracies, definitely a problem here. There are issues in how government functions and how government does or doesn't reflect the will of the people, definitely a problem in the United States. So if you look at an index of democracy, you'll see that full democracies include countries, not surprisingly, like Norway and Sweden and Denmark, Australia and Canada are considered full democracies. The UK, Uruguay in South America is considered a full democracy. And then the second sort of level are flawed democracies by these same measures. And the United States is in that category. Greece, India, Italy are there. It's a very common category, actually. My home country of Argentina is designated a flawed democracy. And we're seeing that represented here. We need to see the full Mueller report. I hope that we will. The one thing working in our favor is that because desire to see the report is so high, hopefully it becomes a bigger and bigger political problem for the Trump administration and the Justice Department the longer it goes without being released. The caveat is very commonly in the United States, when something just kind of goes on for a while and becomes background noise, people forget about it or it's no longer sort of seen as a pressing issue. The fact that Donald Trump is in the White House, I worry, is one of those things. The energy that we saw after his election in great part has dissipated because it's become the status quo. And I wonder whether the voter motivation is going to be there to remove him in 2020. Along the same lines, 84% of Americans want to see the Mueller report. The longer we see it, it should become a bigger and bigger problem politically for the administration, except people may forget about it. One just other thing I was thinking about yesterday, imagine for a second if in the Bill Clinton era, Kenneth Starr's report about the Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton situation had been boiled down to a 4-page summary written by Bill Clinton's attorney general. Would Republicans have accepted that as a full accounting of what the investigation contained, uncovered, and determined? I think we all know the answer to that. Send me your thoughts. I'm on Twitter at @DPakman. The show is on Twitter at David Pakman Show, and we'll be back right after this. One of today's sponsors is Minds.com, a social networking platform that is committed to free speech, transparency, privacy, and fairly compensating content creators. It basically combines many of the features of sites like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter in one platform. But Minds is trying to solve a lot of the problems that exist on major social networks. On Minds, you're not being spied on. You're not being tracked. Everything is encrypted and private. Minds as a company can't even see any of your personal data. You're not going to see a bunch of creepy ads showing you the same products you were just looking at on other websites. And unlike other major social networks, the code that runs Minds.com is publicly available. It provides total transparency and the ability for developers to even contribute to the project themselves. For example, on many other social platforms, you're only reaching a tiny fraction of your followers organically. But on Minds, the news feed is 100% organic, and you can see for yourself how the algorithms actually work. Every time you do something on Minds, like create content, share, like someone else's content, you earn Minds tokens, which can be used to boost the visibility of your own content. You are getting rewarded for participating in and contributing to the network. And Minds offers a feature kind of like Patreon, where your fans can unlock your premium content by sending you Minds tokens. I encourage you to go check it out at Minds.com. There's also a mobile app, and you can actually follow the David Pakman Show on Minds at Minds.com/David Pakman Show. I've also put a link right underneath this video.